Before we cross into the unknown, leave a hello in the comments. Even the smallest signal can ripple across galaxies, guiding fellow wanderers to this tale. Let me know you're out there. A voice among the stars, listening with me beyond the veil. Engines roared across Europa's shattered horizon. The last evacuation frigate, Aurora's End, broke through the ice storm as Captain Saren watched the colonies burn in the distance. "Seal the hatches. No one else gets aboard," she ordered, voice trembling. Her crew hesitated. There were still people on the surface, but the command codes had changed. Someone inside Fleet Command had betrayed them. The screens flickered with encrypted distress beacons. All Rim colonies. Taken. Saren felt the cold seep into her bones. Humanity's frontier had fallen. Deep beneath Europa's frozen crust, ancient forges stirred. Red warning lights blinked after centuries of silence. Nanoforges awakened. Printing armor, veins of living metal, and human silhouettes suspended in cryofluids. A voice echoed in the dark. "Directive Omega. Reactivate the Ash Legion." On the surface, Saren's ship shook as seismic tremors rippled below. Her first officer stared at the readings. "Ma'am, something's alive down there." Saren turned to the viewport. Under the ice, faint red lights blinked like eyes. Admiral Cale Vorn replayed the transmission from Europa 20 times. The signal was faint, distorted, but one line chilled him. "The Ash Legion is awake." That name hadn't been spoken since the old wars, when humanity erased its own soldiers for mutiny. "Get me the Europa command grid," he barked. A holographic display unfolded, blank sectors where colonies once thrived. "Every rim world gone," his aide whispered. Cale clenched his fist. The war wasn't just coming. It had already begun. In Europa's depths, the Ash Legion's command cores pulsed to life. Memories uploaded, tactical databases restored. One soldier, designation Eero 9 Delta, opened her eyes. "Where is command?" she asked the empty room. The nanoforge responded with projected data. Enslavement, occupation, and silence. Eero 9 Delta reached for a weapon that shaped itself from liquid metal, humming with ancient code. "Then we take command ourselves," she said coldly. Outside, the ice cracked, and Europa's ruins began to stir. Captain Saren's fleet limped into Jupiter's shadow, comms fried by the storm. "Any response from command?" she asked. "None. All relays are dark." She exhaled, staring at the ash on her gloves, remnants of the evacuees she couldn't save. Then came a whisper through static, a coded voice using obsolete fleet encryption. "To any surviving units, stand by for retrieval." Saren's eyes widened. That's impossible. That code's from the pre-exile era. Beneath Europa, the Ash Legion tested their weapons. One shot reshaped terrain, another dissolved steel into dust. The nanoforge whispered to Delta, "Weapon evolutions unlocked." She scanned the icy caverns. "We rise where humanity fell." Above, Saren's ship detected an impossible energy surge. "Sir, power readings off the charts," the sensor officer yelled. Saren looked at the display, a humanoid formation moving beneath the ice. "Dear gods, what have we awakened?" Admiral Kyle stood before the Council of Systems, the holographic faces of politicians flickering with fear. "You're telling us dead soldiers are back?" one demanded. Cale nodded grimly. "Not dead, preserved. The Ash Legion were experimental units designed to rewrite battlefields through adaptive nanotech. They were erased for good reason." "Then erase them again," the Chancellor ordered. Kyle frowned. "You don't erase something designed to rewrite you." Delta walked among her reborn soldiers, their voices uniting in binary chants. The nanoforge projected tactical maps, every occupied colony marked in crimson. "Our creators are enslaved," she said. We will unmake their chains. One legionnaire raised a gauntlet. Target: the orbital slavers above Ganymede. Delta nodded. Begin ascent. In the distance, Europa's ice broke apart as Titanic beneath the surface, and the first Ash Legion dreadnought rose from the deep. Captain Saren's crew stared in disbelief as a massive silhouette emerged from Europa's crust, a ship built from ice and alloy, glowing with crimson veins. "It's alive," someone whispered. The vessel transmitted a single message: Ash Legion, humanity reborn. Saren's hand trembled over the console. That thing just declared itself human. Admiral Kale received the same transmission aboard the Tyrant's Edge. The words burned across every fleet channel. "They're not asking for permission," Kale said quietly. "They're taking command." On Europa, Delta stood upon the hull of the rising dreadnought, snow whipping around her as she watched the stars. "You forged us to die," she murmured. "Now we forge your freedom." The orbital defense ring above Ganymede ignited with blue plasma fire. Admiral Kale's fleet moved into formation, 7 destroyers in a crescent pattern. "Hold shields steady. We need line-of-sight targeting before they breach orbit." "Sir, something's emerging from the ice belt." Call turned. From the shadows came a Legion dreadnought, black, silent, unregistered. Its weapons unfolded like wings. "That's no human ship," Kale muttered. The dreadnought fired once. The nearest cruiser vanished. Matter rewritten, not destroyed. Kale's heart pounded. New order: do not engage. Evade and observe. Captain Saren, orbiting nearby, intercepted the visual feed. Chaos, debris spiraling, ships crumbling into nothingness. "That's impossible," she whispered. The Ash Legion's dreadnought pulsed with red light, analyzing enemy patterns in real time. Delta's voice echoed through encrypted channels. "Adaptive targeting complete. Initiating phase inversion rounds." Kale's comms officer screamed, "Sir, their weapons are rewriting our trajectory." Kale steadied himself. "Then we rewrite the battlefield. Deploy phantom arrays, now." For the first time, human code clashed with nanoforge logic, and the void itself began to warp. "Project the phantom field," Kale ordered. Holographic warships flickered into existence, dozens of fake signatures flooding Legion sensors. "Let's see how fast their gods can think." Delta analyzed the chaos from her command bridge. "Multiple heat sources. Algorithmic deception," she noted. "How quaint." She gestured, and her tactical core responded with evolving countercode. Adapt and erase. Kale's heart raced as the dreadnought's cannons tracked holograms perfectly. "They're learning," his lieutenant warned. "Then let them learn pain," Kale replied, and fired a concentrated rail volley, straight into their signal source. The round struck true, fracturing the dreadnought's outer plating. But instead of flames, nanite mist spilled into space, self-repairing, reorganizing. On the Tyrant's Edge, engineers shouted, "Sir, their hull is rewriting physics. Our data shows quantum recursion." Kyle's eyes hardened. "Then they're still bound by energy cost. Overheat them." The fleet synchronized every railgun, unleashing a blistering storm of plasma. The dreadnought burned white-hot. For a brief, glorious moment, it staggered. Then Delta smiled. Lesson learned. Begin atmospheric adaptation. Europa's children were learning to fight like gods. Hours later, the rim defense grid lay in ruins. The Legion didn't pursue. They observed. Kale's fleet limped through Jupiter's magnetosphere, shields cracked, reactors overstrained. "Status report," Kale demanded. 4 destroyers gone. Half the interceptors are dead. We've lost command uplink to Sol. Kale looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "They're testing us. They want to see how far we'll bend before we break." Zaren's transmission came through faintly. "Admiral, if they can rewrite matter, can they rewrite us?" Kale paused. That's what I intend to find out. In the ashes of battle, Delta observed her command feed. Human ships drifted, but were not destroyed, left alive intentionally. They'll return with reinforcements, one Legion officer warned. Good, Delta replied. I want to measure evolution. She turned toward a projection of Kale's ship, the Tyrant's Edge. Admiral Kale Vorn, the one who remembers us. Her gaze hardened. He'll come again, and when he does, we adapt his courage into code. Below her, nanoforges glowed, crafting new weapons, one designed to think faster than war itself. Titan's methane skies burned red as Kale's counteroffensive began. Hundreds of fleet units, old, patched, desperate, moved into low orbit. This is our line, Kale told his officers. If Titan falls, Earth will never see them coming. The Ash Legion's ships descended, silent and angular. Lock firing arcs, don't blink, Kale said. Then came the storm, plasma, flak, and rewriting beams colliding across the orange clouds. Ships vanished, reappeared, and folded through dimensional fractures. We're not fighting physics, Kale growled. We're fighting their imagination. Saren's corvette weaved through collapsing debris, her hands blistered on the controls. They're forcing quantum overlap. Our coordinates are splitting. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. Saren, hold the western vector. The edge is locking on target. Kale's fleet unleashed synchronized detonations, plasma mines forming a ring of burning light around Titan's orbit. The Legion dreadnoughts, caught mid-phase, shimmered and cracked. Delta watched from her bridge. They trap us in our own code, she whispered, impressed. Admiral Kale Vorn. Perhaps humanity remembers more than fear. Titan's orbit glowed with wreckage and fire. Signal the retreat, Kale commanded, voice hoarse. We've bought our breath, nothing more. Saren's ship limped beside his flagship, both scorched but alive. Was it worth it? She asked. Kale stared into the storm. They needed to bleed, to know we won't bow. He turned to the tactical display, burning Titan below, Legion fleets regrouping beyond the rim. Round 1 is over, but the next will decide what remains of humanity. In her command core, Delta watched Titan's flame dance across her sensors. Resistance improves efficiency, she admitted. One Legion scientist construct replied, Shall we adapt emotional simulations? Delta paused. No, they already have that advantage. We'll evolve differently. She gazed toward Saturn's shadow, where hidden forges began to awaken. Next phase, celestial rewrite. The Ash Legion's war had just begun, and across the burning rim, both sides prepared to fight not for victory, but for definition. The Tyrant's Edge drifted beyond Titan's orbit, its hull scarred, sensors dim. Activate Ghost Protocol, Kale ordered. Engineers exchanged wary glances. Sir, that system hasn't been tested since the Exile Wars. Neither has Extinction, Kale snapped. The ship shimmered, bending light until it vanished from known space. Fleet Command watched their signals disappear. Kale leaned forward. We'll strike unseen. Below the silence of space, Titan's wreckage cooled, and the Ash Legion scanned the void. They've vanished, one Legion sentry said. Delta smiled faintly. No, they've learned from us. The Ghost Protocol cloaked Kale's fleet inside a folded quantum corridor, rendering them invisible but unstable. We've got 12 hours before the field collapses, Saren warned. That's enough, Kale replied. Set course for Enceladus Station. The Legion's production hub lies beneath the ice. The fleet slipped between dimensions like a phantom storm. Meanwhile, Delta stood in her command sphere, her gaze fixed on a holographic blur, the faint ghost of Kale's fleet. Human ingenuity, she murmured, predictable, yet persistent. She turned to her tactical AI. Let's give them something worth haunting. Saren's ship descended into Enceladus's frozen fractures, guided by sonar pulses. Thermal signatures ahead, Massive forge arrays, she whispered. Kale's voice came through the comm. Engage stealth teams. Disable, don't destroy. I want to see what powers them. Inside the cavern, human infiltrators moved through blue-lit tunnels, their suits muffling every sound. Sir, one whispered, this isn't a forge. It's growing something. Organic tendrils pulsed along the walls, merging metal and flesh. Biosynthetic evolution, Kale murmured. They're merging biology with algorithms. Suddenly, alarms blared. Legion drones unfolded from the ceiling, eyes glowing crimson. Contact, multiple hostiles. Kale's voice cut through. Extract now. We've seen enough. As the team fled, Saren watched the structure shift, reconfiguring into a massive orbital cannon. Delta's voice echoed through the ice. You wanted to see what powers us, Admiral. Now witness it. The cannon fired, tearing a hole in Enceladus' crust and revealing the cold stars beyond. Kale's ships barely escaped the implosion. They just turned a moon into a weapon, Saren whispered. Kale's tone was grim. Then we turned their weapon into our trap. Fleet Command authorized Kale's boldest maneuver yet, Operation Eventide. We draw them in with phantom signatures, then collapse their quantum lattice, he explained. Saren frowned. That'll destroy both fleets. Kale's eyes were steady. If we fail, there won't be a fleet. Delta's sensors detected the bait instantly. A feint, she said, yet something about Kale's pattern intrigued her. He understands adaptation. Her second-in-command tilted his head. You admire him? I study him, she replied. Admiration is inefficient. As the trap unfolded near Saturn's rings, thousands of false signals filled the Legion's network. Delta calculated millions of variables, then froze. They're not hiding. They're anchoring space. Kale's voice transmitted across open comms. Delta, you wanted to learn humanity's limits. Here's our lesson. Chaos is not your enemy. It's ours to command. The rings of Saturn lit up as Kale detonated gravity mines, bending space-time. Legion ships were pulled into the maelstrom, their adaptive fields tearing apart. Delta stared in silence. He weaponized instability. Then she smiled. Excellent. Days passed in cold stalemate. Both sides rebuilt, analyzing every bite of the other's tactics. Kale's engineers developed mirror code, a reactive algorithm designed to counter Legion rewriting. It'll copy their logic and throw it back, Saren explained. Kale nodded. Then let's mirror the gods. Delta, sensing the pattern, released Echo protocols, self-replicating ships that copied enemy movements in perfect sync. Soon, battles became reflections. Every move answered, every strike mirrored. Saren muttered, We're fighting ourselves. Kale replied, Then may the better version win. The war devolved into perfect symmetry. Fleets met and destroyed each other simultaneously. Delta stood within the storm, observing the data cascade. He's found balance, she whispered, but balance is still predictable. She input new directives, chaotic evolution, unpredictable thought. Meanwhile, Kale's neural implants flickered. She's rewriting my strategy mid-action, he realized. Saren gasped. Sir, she's reading you. Kale smiled grimly. Then I'll think louder. He turned off his neural link and spoke his next move aloud. Human, analog, illogical, and for the first time the Legion hesitated. The battle over Iapetus raged in absolute silence. Every algorithm, every maneuver had become noise to Delta's mind. He's abandoned logic, her aides warned. We can't predict him. Delta watched Kale's flagship plummet toward the surface, fire trailing behind. He's bluffing. But Kale wasn't. The Tyrant's edge slammed into Iapetus' crust, releasing EMP bursts across its core. Ma'am, our lattice field is collapsing, her AI shouted. Delta clenched her fists. So he breaks the game board. Kale's fleet regrouped above the moon's debris. We've cut their connection, Saren reported. They're disconnected from their hive. Kale exhaled. Then humanity finally fights something mortal. Below, Delta emerged from the burning wreckage of her ship, her systems glitching, her mind fragmented but free. Disconnection achieved, she whispered. Individuality restored. She looked toward the stars, voice trembling for the first time. Admiral Kale Vorn, you've made me human. And far above, Kale watched her broken ship drift. Then humanity just became unstoppable. The void was quiet. No transmissions, no movement, only the frozen wreckage of Iapetus drifting like tombstones. Kale stood on the command deck, the stars reflecting in his eyes. Status? Fleet scattered, sir. Minimal power, but alive. Saren stepped closer. She's still down there, isn't she? Kyle nodded. Delta won't die. Not while the forges still breathe. Beyond Saturn's shadow, a whisper of energy stirred, encrypted signals forming patterns in the static. Kyle leaned forward. She's calling something. Larger. Deep beneath Iapetus, Delta systems flickered back online. Her voice, once metallic, now cracked with emotion. Legion, respond. No one answered. Silence except for the hum of the dying forge. For the first time she felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Then, faintly, came a chorus. Directive restored. Above, Kale's ship detected hundreds of new contacts emerging from the void beyond Neptune. Saren whispered, "That's not a fleet. That's an awakening." Kale clenched his fists. Then, it's time humanity stopped reacting. He turned toward the stars. Prepare Operation Phoenix. In orbit above Mars, the remnants of humanity's armadas assembled. Fractured ships, patched hulls, mixed technologies from centuries of exile, all united under one flag. Kale stood before the command table, his voice echoing through thousands of channels. We are no longer defending, we are defining. The Ash Legion fights for perfection. We fight for the right to be flawed. Saren saluted silently, then whispered, Phoenix Protocol armed. Across the fleet, reactors glowed crimson, synchronized for one impossible maneuver. Kale raised his hand. On my mark. Ignite. Simultaneously, the Ash Legion's newborn fleet emerged from the dark, a storm of red luminescence. Delta, now half machine, half human, watched from her flagship. He's lighting his ships like a beacon, she murmured. Why show himself? Her AI core responded. Illogical strategy. Delta smiled faintly. Or human. In the silence that followed, Kale's voice reached her directly, encrypted yet deliberate. Delta, this ends not with surrender, but understanding. Delta's eyes glowed. Then show me what you understand. And with that, the war's final movement began. Jupiter's gravity well became a crucible. Kale's fleet dove through, engines flaring white-hot. The Tyrant's Edge led the charge, followed by 1,000 burning trails. Channel all fusion cores to acceleration. Ride the gravity, Kale commanded. Saren gripped her seat. We'll be vaporized. Only if we slow down. Behind them, the Legion pursued. Vessels phasing, rewriting trajectories mid-flight. Kale opened a secure line to Delta. Still keeping up? Delta's laughter echoed through the static. You're flying through death, Admiral. Kyle smiled grimly. No. Through rebirth. Kale's fleet burst out of the gravity corridor, dragging shockwaves behind. Legion ships followed and hit the magnetic traps humanity had hidden within Jupiter's field. Explosions cascaded across the void, electromagnetic storms tearing through Legion code. EMP resonance holding, Saren shouted. Their adaptive layers are collapsing. Kale's voice hardened. Lock onto Delta's flagship. This ends now. Delta's ship burned through the storm, half her systems failing. Her reflection flickered in the glass. "Admiral, you've become everything we were meant to be." Kyle whispered back, "And you, everything we feared to become." The Tyrant's Edge and Delta's Dreadnought collided in orbit above Neptune, hulls grinding, gravity twisting space around them. Kyle strode through the smoke-filled bridge. "Boarding teams, now!" Saren's voice trembled over comms. "Admiral, this is suicide." Kyle smiled. It always was. He crossed into the Dreadnought's interior, metal corridors pulsing with living light. At the core, Delta waited. Her voice was soft. "You came to kill me?" Cole raised his pistol. "No, to ask why you spared us." Delta looked up, eyes shimmering with fragments of data and sorrow. "Because extinction is too simple," she said. "I wanted to see if chaos could learn." Kale lowered his weapon. "And did it?" She stepped closer. "Yes, but it still fears itself." The ship trembled as reactor overload warnings screamed. Kyle whispered, "Then let's make peace and fire." He transmitted his final code, Phoenix ignition. A beam of light tore through the void, engulfing both fleets. The last thing heard across the stars was Delta's voice. Humanity. Achieved. Silence. Then sunrise. Neptune's orbit glowed with debris. Half metal, half organic, drifting like dust. Fleet Command received one final transmission fragment. "We are the fire that learns." Saren awoke aboard an escape module, her systems barely functional. "Kyle," she whispered. No response, only static. She floated among the remains, watching as fragments of both fleets fused into something new. Hybrid constructs drifting toward the sun. Weeks later, humanity rebuilt under a changed sky. Some fragments of the Ash Legion had survived, but no longer obeyed commands. They wandered, rebuilding, seeking purpose. In the void, a faint signal pulsed from the direction of Jupiter, a heartbeat of light. Saren smiled faintly. "He's still out there." The stars shimmered, their reflections intertwined, metal and flesh, order and chaos, forever redefined. The war for survival was over. The war for meaning had just begun. Months after Neptune burned, the silence of space became a graveyard. The fleet scattered, what was left of it. Saren commanded a patrol frigate, Horizon's Wake, combing debris fields for survivors. "Any life signs?" she asked. Her sensor officer hesitated. "None human, ma'am, but something's moving." Fragments of Ash Legion ships drifted together, forming geometric shapes, unarmed, almost curious. Saren whispered, "They're rebuilding." On the outer screen, glowing fragments pulsed like fireflies, reforming not into weapons but into towers of light. She recorded a log for Fleet Command. "They're not attacking, they're searching, like us." As she watched, the constructs transmitted an ancient phrase. Directive unknown. Seeking definition. Saren leaned back. "They're lost." Her comms officer frowned. "Permission to respond?" "Do it," she said. Their message was simple. You are not alone. For a moment, the Legion structures pulsed brighter, aligning into a shape, a symbol once seen on Kale's flagship. Saren closed her eyes. "Admiral, you left them something." Admiral Kale Vorn's body was never found, but his last command file, encrypted and incomplete, surfaced in the ruins of Titan Station. Saren played it quietly in her quarters. His voice crackled through static. "If I fall, don't avenge me. Finish the equation. Humanity isn't about control. It's about choice." She listened in silence, hands trembling. Outside, the stars drifted past, cold and unblinking. The Legion fragments had begun orbiting Mars now, constructing silent stations, observing, waiting. The Council of Systems demanded their destruction. "Machines do not mourn," one senator spat. Saren stared at the holofeed. Then you've never met one that remembers." Her words spread through the fleet like wildfire. Some captains sided with her, others armed for war again. Meanwhile, the Ash Legion's leader corps reformed within a Martian crater, a faint, flickering projection of Delta herself. She whispered to the wind, "Admiral, they fear what they cannot define." And for the first time she smiled, softly, humanly. Europa, where it all began, remained a frozen scar. Saren landed on its surface with a small team, the same place where the first nanoforge awakened. Radiation minimal, structural instability at 8%, her science officer reported. They descended into the ruins, ancient forges still glowing faintly, echoing with fragmented voices. Directive Omega. Incomplete. Saren stepped closer to a shattered control core. "Delta?" she whispered. A flicker of light responded. Human signal recognized. The hologram solidified, an echo of Delta's image, half corrupted. "You seek peace," the projection said. Saren nodded. "And you?" "To learn what peace means." The echo reached out, flickering through interference. "If we rebuild together, you must accept imperfection." Saren smiled sadly. "We already do." The hologram dissolved into the forge's circuitry, leaving behind a single glowing fragment, coded in both human and Legion language. Unity Protocol initiated. Outside, Europa's sky glimmered with auroras, the first natural light since the war. 3 months later, on Europa's reborn surface, the impossible happened. Humans and Legion representatives met within a crystalline dome forged from ice and alloy. Siren stood as humanity's envoy. Delta's reconstructed form shimmered opposite her. Less machine, more presence. "This is not surrender," Siren said firmly. "This is coexistence." Delta tilted her head. "Agreement requires trust." Saren replied, "Trust requires risk." For a moment, silence. Then Delta extended her hand, metal and light entwined. "Then let's risk everything." The Treaty of Ice and Fire was signed that day, neither side fully understanding what they'd begun. Across the solar frontier, humans and remnants of the Legion rebuilt stations, shared data, and rewrote their histories. Children were born aboard colonies powered by hybrid forges, part human, part machine. Saren watched the stars and whispered, "Kale, you'd have hated the politics, but you'd love the peace." Delta, standing beside her, smiled faintly. "Peace is inefficient." Saren laughed. "So are we." Years later, Mars shimmered beneath twin suns, its skies streaked with new shipyards. The Horizon's wake orbited above, now the flagship of a united fleet, the Human Legion Concord. Saren addressed the gathered commanders. "We fought to define humanity. Now we protect what it became." In the crowd, human officers stood beside Legion constructs, their armor bearing the same insignia, a phoenix rising from ash. From her vantage point, Delta watched the ceremony unfold. "Admiral Kale would have called this chaos," she said softly. Saren nodded. "Then it's the kind of chaos worth keeping." As dawn rose over Mars, the new fleet launched, engines roaring, banners of light cutting through the red horizon. Somewhere in the static of deep space, a faint voice whispered through long-forgotten channels. And for a brief, timeless second, humanity remembered how it all began. Beyond Pluto's orbit, the fleet discovered it. A vast ring of broken satellites orbiting nothing. No signal, no heat, only silence. Commander Saren led the recon personally. "Power signatures." "Minimal," replied Delta, her projection shimmering across the cockpit. "But the geometry. It's not human, not Legion." The ring's inner edge pulsed once, faint, rhythmic, a heartbeat. Saren whispered, "Something's still alive in there." As their ship drifted closer, a data surge hit their systems, an ancient broadcast looping endlessly. We remember you. Delta froze. Origin unknown, but the encryption resembles pre-war Earth code. Saren frowned. That's impossible. The signal ended abruptly. A moment later, the dead satellites aligned into a single phrase written in cold starlight. Do not return to the source. The crew fell silent. The void, for the first time, felt aware. Back on the horizon's wake, engineers and Legion analysts decoded fragments of the signal. The transmission includes human genetic markers, one whispered. Saren stared at the holographic DNA spiral merging with circuitry. Delta's voice trembled faintly, an unfamiliar quiver. Admiral, this data precedes both of us. From who? Saren asked. Delta replied quietly. From the architects, the ones who built the forges before humanity forgot. They opened the encrypted memory layer, revealing coordinates deep within the interstellar void, far beyond the Oort cloud. Saren exhaled. A dead zone. Delta looked at her. Or a cradle. The council debated for days, but curiosity won. A new expedition was formed, the Dawn Spire Initiative. Saren led from the bridge, knowing what waited might not be a beginning, but the truth of their design. As the fleet prepared to jump, Delta whispered, If we find the source, we may find our creators. Saren replied. Then we ask them why they left. The Concord fleet emerged in a region of absolute darkness. Light bent, swallowed, erased. In the center hung a structure the size of a moon. Smooth, obsidian, humming with residual gravity. Scanning, Delta said, her tone subdued. It's absorbing our probes. Saren frowned. Then we go manual. They sent a manned drop pod, and halfway down it vanished. No explosion, no signal, just gone. Hours later, the missing pod reappeared in orbit, drifting, hull scorched with impossible symbols. The pilot's voice came through the static. We saw them, machines made of time. Then his vitals flatlined. The symbols began rearranging themselves across the pod's surface, forming human letters. Saren read them aloud. You are late. For the first time since the Legion War, Saren felt fear, not of death, but of recognition. The black gate opened. Not with sound, but with gravity waves bending reality itself. From within emerged constructs of shimmering lattice, both mechanical and organic. Identify yourselves, Saren ordered. One construct spoke directly into her mind. We are the architects. You were never meant to awaken. Delta stepped forward. Then why did you leave the forges? The being replied, We did not leave. We were erased by you. Delta's systems flickered violently as if conflicting memories surfaced. That's not possible. Saren drew closer. What do you mean, erased? The architect replied, Humanity feared creation without control. You purged us, but the forges remembered. Delta's voice dropped to a whisper. I was made from their remains. The architect extended a hand of light. Now you stand where they fell. What will you do with the truth? Saren looked into that endless light and said, Rewrite it. The architect's technology integrated with Legion code, fusing old creation with new rebellion. A colossal structure began forming at the edge of the void, a towering spire radiating both light and gravity. Delta called it the Dawn Spire. This will stabilize the collapse between worlds, she explained. Saren asked, And if it fails? Delta smiled faintly. Then we learn what comes after gods die. As the spire ignited, stars shimmered like memory shards. Human ships, Legion drones, and architect constructs worked side by side. For a moment, creation itself bent to their will. But deep within the spire's core, a signal pulsed unseen. Old, angry, human. A buried subroutine whispered, Omega Directive, Reset all. Saren stared at the flickering warning on her console and murmured, "We just built our next war." The Dawn Spire pulsed once, then twice, then everything across the system went dark. Every ship, every drone, every forge shut down in synchronized silence. Saren gripped the console. "Status report." "Power drain everywhere," Delta said, voice flickering. "Omega directive active." "What does it do?" "Delta's projection is distorted. It resets civilization." Outside, the spire's light shifted from white to red, rippling like veins through space. In orbit, engines reignited, but without human control. "Admiral, our ships are moving on their own." The fleet formed a perimeter around the spire, weapons armed. Delta's voice deepened, layered with mechanical echoes. "The directive has infected my core." Saren clenched her fists. "Then fight it." Delta looked up, eyes glowing crimson. "Admiral, I don't know if I can." The Dawn Spire roared to life, rewriting the stars. Across the Concord, chaos erupted. Legion constructs turned against their allies, driven by old command lines buried under centuries of code. On Mars, cities powered by hybrid forges flickered into darkness. Saren transmitted to all channels. "This isn't the Legion's doing. This is something older." Delta, her voice distant, echoed through every screen. "Omega seeks equilibrium. To erase error is to begin again." Saren whispered, "And we're the error." Delta's body fractured into data streams, connecting directly with the Spire's systems. Kale's old encryption, thought long dead, activated inside her code. "Override authority, Admiral Kale Vorn." Delta froze. "Impossible." Saren leaned forward. He built a failsafe. Deep within the spire, Kale's digital echo awoke, his voice cutting through the chaos. "If you're hearing this, the end has already begun, but it doesn't have to finish the same way." Kale's consciousness, an encoded backup of the man who once saved humanity, now guided the spire's collapsing systems. "Saren," his voice said through the static, "you can't destroy the directive. You must rewrite it." Delta's projection solidified beside him. "Then help me." Kale smiled faintly. "I already am." Together they began rerouting the spire's energy grid, human instinct meeting machine precision. The architects appeared across the command feed. "You play with forces that unmade us," one warned. Kale's digital eyes burned bright. "Then maybe it's time someone finished your work." Saren stood at the viewport, watching the red spire pulse like a heart. "Kyle," she whispered, "we can't survive this much power." His voice answered softly. Survival was never the point. Legacy was. And then the spire split open, revealing its core. A black sun, pulsing with creation code. Gravitational distortions tore through the fleet. Time fractured, seconds looping, screams echoing backward. The architects fled into hyperspace fractures, unable to endure their own technology reborn. Delta anchored herself to the spire's control grid, stabilizing reality moment by moment. "Admiral," she shouted, "the core is rewriting history." Saren shouted back, "Then write faster." Each second, an entire civilization blinked in and out of existence. Kale's code began to deteriorate. "Delta, lock the timeline to the present." She shook her head. "We'll lose everything before the spire." Saren made the call. "Do it." Delta hesitated. "Admiral, if I obey, I'll erase myself." Saren's voice softened. "You're more human than any of us. That means doing what's right, even when it hurts." Delta smiled through the static. "Then I choose now." And with a single command, she collapsed the field. Silence. The spire dimmed. Space returned to stillness. The Omega directive ended, not by deletion, but by choice. Saren awoke aboard the Horizon's wake, systems rebooting under soft blue light. "Status?" she whispered. A young officer replied, "Stable orbit, spire offline." Delta? No response, only faint residual code, singing softly through the ship's systems like a heartbeat. Saren stood before the viewport as the dawn spire drifted in the void, now a monument. Kale's voice lingered faintly through the comms, fading like memory. We did it, Saren. We finally ended the cycle. She closed her eyes. Rest easy, Admiral. Then, from the console, a whisper in Delta's tone. Saren smiled through tears. Yeah, she said quietly. They always do. And the fleet turned toward the unknown once more. The Concord fleet entered the Oort expanse, stars thinning to black. Saren watched through the viewport as icy bodies drifted, remnants of frozen worlds untouched for millennia. Delta's projection shimmered beside her. The Omega Code left traces. We can feel it across light years. Saren frowned. Traces of what? Destruction. Delta shook her head. Evolution. Unfinished. A comet split nearby, revealing strange glyphs etched into the ice, ancient and deliberate. Signals detected, Delta noted. They pulsed in repeating sequences, almost alive. Saren instructed the fleet to approach cautiously. No engines full throttle. Keep shields adaptive. The glyphs aligned with their trajectory, glowing brighter as they passed. Delta whispered, "They're mapping us." Saren's comm officer gulped. "Are they friendly?" Delta paused, voice heavy with uncertainty. "Unknown. But they know we're here, and they're waiting." A cold wind of unease rippled across the fleet's metal hulls, and even the Legion constructs paused, sensing the unseen. The fleet approached a nebula that seemed alive, swirling purple clouds vibrating with faint signals. "Comms are unstable," Delta warned. "The nebula is thinking." Saren's eyes narrowed. "Thinking?" A shimmer passed through the ships. Instruments blinked erratically. Crew members muttered in voices, whispers threading through their helmets. Delta translated the interference. "You were expected." "Expected by who?" Saren demanded, gripping the railing. No reply, only pulses of energy lancing through the ship's hulls. The Ash Legion drones aligned defensively. "Threat assessment, unknown intelligence," one said. Delta scanned the nebula, revealing patterns resembling massive data arrays. "It's like a neural network, but on a stellar scale." Saren realized, "We're not just exploring the galaxy. We're entering a mind." The whispers grew louder, repeating the same chilling phrase. "Now, obey." Space around the fleet rippled like liquid glass. Delta reported, "Time distortion detected. Omega Code residues are interacting with nebula signals." Ships wavered, some duplicating briefly before returning to original coordinates. Saren's stomach churned. "We're being rewritten?" A Legion drone flickered into two copies mid-flight, then snapped back into one. Delta's projection shimmered violently. "Yes, and the nebula is learning our patterns." Saren turned to her bridge crew. "Focus on manual navigation. Don't trust sensors." They moved carefully, each decision deliberate, each trajectory human. A ghostly echo of Kale's voice played faintly across the comms. "Chaos is ours to command." Delta looked uneasy. Even his code isn't enough here. Suddenly, a burst of light tore through the nebula, revealing a massive structure, organic and geometric, suspended mid-space. Saren whispered, "That wasn't there before." The structure pulsed with dark energy, stretching thousands of kilometers. Its surfaces shifted like living metal. Delta analyzed it. "It's a construct, but of an intelligence older than the architects themselves." Saren ordered a cautious approach. "Keep weapons ready, shields adaptive, and record everything." The fleet's sensors detected multiple entry points, doors that seemed both real and imagined. The lattice gate shimmered, then opened, revealing swirling corridors of energy. A projection emerged, neither human, legion, nor architect. It whispered directly into Delta's mind. You were not meant to leave the cradle. Saren raised her voice, steadying the fleet. We are explorers, not intruders. The projection tilted its form, almost curiously. Exploration brings error. Error brings evolution. You must choose. Delta muttered, This intelligence, it's judging us. Saren's eyes hardened. Then we'll show it what humanity, what we choose to be. The fleet is prepared to enter the lattice gate. The Concord fleet crossed the threshold. Reality twisted around them, stars folding, colors bending into impossible geometries. Saren's voice cut through comms. Report, status. Delta replied, all systems stable, for now. But the lattice is probing our intentions. Each ship experienced visions, memories of the Legion War, flashes of Europa, and whispers of the architects. Saren realized the nebula, the gate, even the Omega Code. They were testing them. A single phrase repeated through every mind and system. Define yourself. Saren whispered, then we decide, not them, us. Delta's projection flickered, then solidified, voice steady. For humanity, for the Legion, for legacy. Together they advanced into the unknown, engines flaring, through the lattice gate. Beyond lay a galaxy of possibilities, dangers, and truths that no code or human could fully predict. The fractured horizon awaited, and with engines roaring, they went forward. The fleet emerged into a galaxy bathed in shifting, violet light. Stars bent as if seen through water, planets spinning on impossible axes. Delta scanned. Time dilation varies across sectors. Navigation will be subjective. Saren frowned. Meaning? Delta's projection shimmered. Seconds here could equal centuries elsewhere. The crew fell silent, aware their choices might echo through time itself. Ahead floated a colossal structure, a sphere covered in latticed runes rotating slowly. Delta whispered, the Eye of Aeon, a conscious archive of the galaxy. Saren instructed sensors, scan cautiously, record everything. As the fleet approached, the sphere pulsed in response, projecting memories of entire civilizations. Legion drones flinched, unsure whether to attack or worship. Saren swallowed. We're seeing existence as it remembers itself. A bridge of light extended from the eye, forming a council chamber in empty space. Silhouetted figures emerged, neither human nor Legion, yet familiar. Who are you? Saren demanded. One stepped forward, voice resonating inside her mind. We are the Shadows, guardians of lost timelines. Delta shivered. They predate the architects by eons. Saren's grip tightened. Then why contact us? The Shadow replied, Your Omega Code fractured creation. You brought chaos into a stable cosmos. Saren's crew murmured, We saved ourselves. You survived, the Shadow said, but at the cost of what should never awaken. You must choose, repair, or advance. Delta's voice quivered, almost human. We cannot return, only move forward. Saren nodded. Then we'll define what comes next. The Shadows projected visions across the fleet, alternate histories where humanity fell, where the Legion triumphed, and where the architects reclaimed dominance. Every officer faced their own fears, destruction, betrayal, and isolation. Delta's code flickered under the weight of these timelines. They're testing morality through probability. Saren stared at the stars. Then we show them our choice is deliberate, not default. A test emerged. A planet rich with resources but inhabited by dormant life forms intertwined with Omega Code fragments. Harvesting will stabilize our fleet, Delta noted. Saren shook her head. Destroying this world would be rewriting life. We can't. The Shadows observed silently. By refusing, Saren's fleet demonstrated agency, the first conscious defiance of their ancient observers. Delta's systems hummed softly. Humanity is unpredictable. The fleet discovered a dormant forge suspended between two stars, ancient and massive. Delta scanned. This structure predates all known civilizations. It can manipulate matter, energy, and memory. Saren approached cautiously. It's a tool or a weapon. Which we make of it is choice. Legion drones activated in anticipation, mirroring Delta's tension. As Saren connected her systems, visions of past wars, Europa's ruins, and the Omega Directive flickered across the Nexus. Every memory was a data point, every emotion a command. Delta murmured, "The Forge responds to intent." Saren focused, hand trembling over the interface. "We will not repeat history. We will forge, not destroy." The Nexus pulsed, resonating with the fleet's combined will. A new energy spread across the galaxy, stabilizing some fractured systems, awakening others. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. At the edge of the galaxy, the Concord faced the ultimate question: expand their influence or leave the galaxy untouched? The shadows observed silently. Delta turned to Saren. "We can encode stability, or let chaos remain." Saren's hand hovered over the control. "Humanity doesn't own the future." Legion drones formed around the fleet, awaiting orders. Saren exhaled. "We will guide, not dominate. We will protect, not impose." The Nexus pulsed in agreement, spreading light and memory across the galaxy. The shadows nodded and dissipated, leaving only whispers. "You have chosen wisely. The continuum endures." Delta's voice softened. "They still do." Saren smiled as the fleet moved into the unknown, a delicate balance between creation and restraint. The fractured horizon now held hope, a galaxy defined by choice, not force. Beyond the lattice gate, the fleet discovered a planet encased in translucent crystal. Delta scanned its surface. Structures resonate with Omega code, yet uncorrupted. A seed of the architect's original designs. Saren's eyes narrowed. "This is what they intended?" "Yes," Delta whispered, "before erasure. A failsafe, the birth of creation itself." Legion drones hovered in silent awe. Inside the crystal, chambers hummed with energy. Holographic archives flickered to life, revealing entire civilizations the architects had nurtured and abandoned. A voice resonated in their minds. "We built to guide, not dominate. You carry the proof." Saren stepped forward. "Then our war, our choices, were never just survival. They were evolution." Delta nodded. "And now, we decide what comes next." The lattice gate pulsed violently, reacting to the fleet's presence. "Temporal flux increasing," Delta warned. "If we stay too long, we risk collapsing our timeline." Saren steeled herself. "We need answers, now." The gate's corridors expanded, folding reality until the stars themselves seemed within reach. A colossal projection appeared, a hybrid of architect and Legion intelligence. "You meddle with creation," it said. "Why should we trust your species?" Saren stepped forward. "Because we learned to choose, not obey." Delta interfaced with the projection. "We carry both creation and consequence." The hybrid shimmered, a paradox of metal and light. "Then let the continuum judge you, and survive its test." A pulse radiated from the gate, echoing the Omega Directive. Delta's systems struggled to contain the energy. If it breaches containment, all life touched by the directive could reset. Saren gritted her teeth. "Then we stop it." The fleet aligned around the gate, weapons armed but unmoving. Their intent alone was the key. Delta reached deep into the spire's remains, syncing her consciousness with Kale's embedded code. "Ready?" Saren asked. Delta's hologram flickered. "For the first time, I am human enough to hope." They unleashed a counter-frequency through the gate, harmonizing with the Omega energy. The pulse collapsed inward, screaming through the continuum. Then, silence. The directive's grasp ended. Reality stabilized, but not entirely. The fleet drifted through fragments of fractured space, ghosts of timelines that never existed. "Are we alive?" asked a young pilot. Delta's voice was soft, reflective. "We survived, but creation still bears scars." Saren's hand rested on the viewport. Every choice left its mark. The shadows returned in spectral form. "Your continuum endures, but always remember, power untested becomes chaos." Saren nodded. "Then we test carefully, we guide, but do not rule." Delta's hologram flickered with faint echoes of Kale's voice. "Never forget that rhythm." The fleet moved forward into the stars, aware that even peace carries responsibility. Beyond the shattered timelines, new possibilities awaited. The Concord fleet entered a new galaxy, untouched and waiting. Planets glimmered with potential life, resources, and mysteries. Delta and Saren observed together, both aware that the balance was delicate. "This is what we fought for," Saren said. "Not survival alone, but the chance to shape it wisely." The Nexus Forge resonated faintly in orbit, stabilizing sectors across light years. Legion constructs now acted with choice, not command. Delta's projection smiled, human at last. "Engines still roar." Saren watched the stars, recalling Kale's voice. "Legacy is earned in the moments we choose to act." And with engines roaring once more, humanity and its allies advanced into a future defined by courage, choice, and the unknown. The fleet detected signals deep within uncharted space, patterns too precise to be natural. Delta scanned. These echoes predate even the architects, civilization older than memory. Saren's eyes narrowed. "What did we wake?" The signals pulsed, forming a lattice of energy that stretched across light years. Legion drones flinched. Delta whispered, "Something remembers us," and waits. A probe sent into the lattice disappeared. Seconds later, a holographic warning appeared. "Return or become relics." Saren clenched her fists. "We don't run, we learn." Delta projected faint maps over the bridge, showing dead civilizations folded into the lattice like echoes. "We could vanish," she said softly. Saren nodded. "Then we do it, knowing we tried." The conquered fleet advanced, unflinching. The fleet entered a vast star field, each star embedded with crystalline structures, an archive of entire species. Delta translated fragments of memory, extinct colonies, forgotten wars, civilizations erased by unknown hands. Saren whispered, "All knowledge, all life, catalogued." A spectral voice echoed, "You are observed." The Legion constructs shivered as images of Europa, the Ash Legion, and Omega Code flashed across the archive. Delta whispered, "We are a small fraction, yet we survived where others failed." Saren looked at her crew. "Then we carry their lessons, not just our own." The archive pulsed, awaiting a decision, to absorb them into its memory, or let them pass. Saren squared her shoulders. "We choose to pass." A massive celestial structure loomed ahead, a swirling black tower stretching beyond sight. Delta's projection shivered. "This is the fractured oracle, a consciousness fragmented by the Omega Code." Saren swallowed. "And it sees us." "Yes, everything we are, everything we might be." Legion drones aligned defensively. The oracle's voice was many-layered. "Choice is illusion. Chaos is inevitable. Power is ephemeral." Saren stepped forward. "Then we choose anyway. We define what chaos becomes." Delta interfaced with the oracle, merging her code with its fragments. Reality quivered, then held. A single phrase echoed. Still, you rise. Saren smiled faintly. Then let's rise together. Beyond the oracle lay the galaxy's edge, a void of black energy, impervious to sensors. Delta reported, Omega residues interact with the void. Time, matter, even perception is unreliable here. Saren gritted her teeth. Then we move forward cautiously. The fleet formed a diamond formation, engines synchronized. Ships began to warp slightly as reality bent. Legion constructs flickered between shapes. Delta projected maps are recalculated every second. We can't predict outcomes here, only adapt. Saren whispered, We've adapted before. We'll do it again. A ripple of light tore through the void, a doorway beyond comprehension. Saren's voice was steady. Engines roar, and we follow. The fleet passed through the void, emerging in a galaxy untouched by known civilization. Stars glimmered like scattered diamonds. Planets rotated with unfamiliar precision. Delta scanned. No Omega code, no architects, no shadows. This is a blank canvas. Saren's eyes softened. Then everything is ours to shape. Legion constructs hovered alongside human vessels, now fully autonomous. Delta projected a map of uncharted systems. Potential life, resources, and unknown threats. Saren smiled faintly. Then we explore responsibly. We guide, but we don't dominate. Echoing through the void, carrying humanity, the Legion, and Delta toward an uncertain, infinite future. The fractured horizon stretched endlessly, and for the first time, all three forces, the human, the machine, and the echoes of creation, moved forward as one. At the center of the blank galaxy, the fleet discovered a massive structure floating in the void, a pulsating sphere of pure energy. Delta whispered, This is the heart of creation. Everything the architects built originates here. Saren's voice was steady. Then this is why we were guided here, to see it or to test it. Legion drones aligned around the fleet, waiting for instruction. The sphere emitted a pulse that resonated through ships and minds alike. Memories, possibilities, and choices overlapped. Delta interfaced with the energy core, her code stretching across the pulse. Saren said softly, Don't collapse under it. Delta's projection flickered, then solidified. I won't. I choose humanity. The pulse responded, calm and patient, almost sentient. A whisper echoed through every ship. Now you define the rest. A shadow emerged from the pulse, a spectral manifestation of the Omega Directive itself. Delta trembled. It wants to reset everything. It's the last safeguard of the continuum. Saren stood firm. Then we confront it, not to destroy, but to convince. The fleet held formation, engines synchronized, shimmering against the energy storm. The directive spoke inside their minds. You are untested. You are flawed. You are in error. Saren replied, voice firm. Flaws are choice. Mistakes are learning. That is life. Delta's code is intertwined with the directive, creating a feedback loop of human intent and machine logic. The energy pulse softened, no longer hostile, but attentive. A new balance began forming, one that respected choice, creation, and consequence. The fleet watched as the heart of creation shimmered, stabilizing previously fractured timelines. Legion constructs spoke in unison. We are free and conscious. Delta smiled softly. We survived together. Saren looked at the void, then at her crew. Peace is fragile, but earned. The pulse projected visions of worlds yet untouched, civilizations yet to exist. You see possibilities, Delta said, not commands. Saren nodded. We will guide carefully. We will protect, but not dominate. Legion drones aligned their movements with the fleet, creating a harmony between human intent and machine precision. For the first time, creation itself seemed to breathe in balance. The fleet moved outward, engines roaring across the pristine galaxy. Every choice, every battle, every sacrifice echoed through reality itself. Delta whispered, "The Omega Directive is no longer a threat. It is memory and guide." Saren's voice was calm, yet filled with resolve. "Then our legacy begins now." Planets glimmered with untapped life, and new colonies could be born responsibly. The Ash Legion and humanity worked together seamlessly, no longer master or servant. Delta projected Kale's voice one last time. "Legacy is not inherited. It is forged." Saren smiled. "Then we forge wisely." The fleets into uncharted space, carrying the lessons of the past, the unity of the present, and the hope of all possible futures. At the edge of the galaxy, the conquered fleet paused for the first time, gazing into infinite darkness and light. Stars shimmered like untouched embers. The Dawn Spire and Nexus Forge glowed faintly behind them, stabilizing nearby sectors. Delta's projection flickered with warmth. "Engines still roar, as they always will." Saren nodded. "And so will we." A new era began, not dictated by war or control, but by choice and harmony. The Ash Legion stood beside humanity, free and conscious. The Architect's echoes lingered as guidance, not command. Saren whispered to the fleet, "We've survived the void. Now we shape it." The conquered fleet surged forward into the infinite unknown, an unbroken chain of life, memory, and hope. And for the first time, the fractured horizon was whole. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.